Hello there. My name is Rachel, and I'm your host for these weekly Monday podcasts, your power-packed podlets dropped every single week so you can begin your week in your power, excited for the life that you're building and clear on how to build it. These episodes, they're especially curated for those of you you're really driven to build life on your own terms, to have the freedom and lifestyle you desire, and not only that, to run a business doing something that genuinely lights you up. Now, I've got something really exciting prepared for you. Over the next 7 weeks, we're going to be going on a journey together. Now, if you're in my WhatsApp group, where there's around 200 women in there now, then you will have already gone on this journey with me. And I highly, highly recommend you do this again. Because we did 7 days of trainings together, 7 days with one goal, which is how to build a business that you genuinely love and have a great time along the way. So what does this look like? It means reducing stress, reducing overwhelm, reducing anxiety, bringing more joy into the process. Because I know a lot of you, you wake up stressed. You wake up worried about what you should be doing to move your business forwards, worried about getting results, worried about whether you're good enough and you're giving your clients the experiences they desire, worried about whether they're going to continue working with you. And that's not why you got into business. We got into business to have a great time, to have an impact, to enjoy the process. And so these 7 trainings were recorded to really break those patterns, to be the mirror for you to see why you're experiencing stress, anxiety, overwhelm, or self-doubt, so that you can build your business in an entirely different way. So I'm really excited to bring these trainings to you. Let me take you through a little bit what this journey is going to be like, because every single episode builds on the last one. You're going to see how it takes you from where you are to where you want to be. And they're going to be episodes you want to listen to again and again and again. Each time you listen, you'll hear something different. And the first one is really preparing you for the whole journey. Now, the way these were recorded there were 2 or 3 separate audios, each with a really powerful message in them. So as you go through today's episode, you're going to hear that there's an introduction, then it takes you through some really powerful trainings. So I invite you to actually join the YouTube channel, subscribe to our Telegram space, and put the notifications on so that you know every single time a podcast episode is dropped and you can start your week listening to it. I'm really excited to hear how you get on. Do drop things in the comments. I read everything that you put in there. I would love to hear what lands for you, but also know that not only am I reading it, other people are reading your comments, and this helps to hold you accountable to taking the actionable steps that will move you towards the business and the freedom that I know that your heart is calling for. So let's begin this journey together. Welcome everyone to day 1 of 7 days, 7 trainings, one key focus, which is the following: you having a fun, wild and adventurous time building and running your business and curating life on your own terms. So in today's audio, this is going to be an introduction of what we're going to be doing together over the next 7 days. Not only that, it's going to be about how you can get maximal value from these trainings, because these are the types of teachings that don't just serve you in the now, they also serve you over weeks, months and years, potentially even over the rest of your life. And it is about approaching them in a certain way so you're able to get that level of value from them. But not only this, today we're going to be covering one key principle that is going to help you to be successful, not just in business, but in life itself. Every single audio, we're going to cover one key principle. And I mean, if you know me, you know, it won't just be one key principle. I like to bring value above and beyond. So there'll probably be multiple ones, but there will be at least one key principle in every single audio. So first off, let's go into how to get value from these trainings, because this is not about learning. This is about taking something, applying it in your life, contemplating upon the ideas so you can experience it through lived experience yourself and receive embodied wisdom. Learning is fun. Learning is incredible. Learning from other people. You know, you're coming into this space to learn from me. Yeah. A woman who's built multiple businesses, who's got to a certain level. So I've got insights, information, wisdom, experience to share with you. But it is not about taking my experience as yours. It is about then going out and applying the things and getting personal experience. So you're translating it to knowledge and embodied wisdom. So my invitation is save these audios, create a group in your WhatsApp and send them, forward them to yourself so you can listen back to them again and again and again. Because every single time you listen, you're going to hear something different. Every single time you listen, you're potentially going to have a new aha moment, or you are going to understand something in a way you never have before. I'm going to send this one now and we'll go to the second audio. So you're going to see there may be a couple of different audios on each day, breaking down different principles. So you can also come back to the ones that are most relevant to you and listen to those multiple times. So let me give you a little bit of context, because there are those of you in here who we've known each other for a really long time, whether you're a friend, a colleague, or a client. And some of you have been clients of mine for 10 plus years. Then there's those of you we're just getting to know each other, and some of you who've literally just joined the group. So if you're new to the space, ladies, welcome. It's amazing to have you here. So giving you a little bit of context, some of you might think this is just about business, and my role that I play here is to be your business coach, mentor, and guide. And there is a much bigger layer to this, and there's a much more holistic and global approach. So let me take you back in time for a moment, because a huge theme in my lifetime, in fact, from the age of 19, has been around understanding happiness. As somebody who suffered from depression, and I saw multiple members of my family also suffering from the same, it's been kind of an obsession from that age to understand what happiness truly is. So what gets in the way of it, what are the building blocks it's built on, and also what causes us to suffer. It's taken me on this incredible path that I'm super, super grateful for, being able to turn what was my pain into my superpower, to understand what causes suffering, to understand emotions, the human body, and our relationship with ourselves. Because everything that you build in your life, including your business, comes from the epicenter of your own human experience. And there's something that I love to say, which is the following, that your business can only be as successful as the people or person running that business. So you can only grow to the extent that you are capable of believing, having, and holding. What your nervous system is capable of having, what your identity is capable of creating, and what your belief systems are capable of allowing you to see in this lifetime. And so when we're looking at approaching success, it's not just about how do you make loads of money and how do you do what you love and get paid for it. Like, building a business is so much more than that. And we don't just get into this game for the money alone. I mean, if I was in business just for money, I would have quit years ago, because business is going to stretch you. If you've been around the business block a few times, you already know this. If you're just starting out, it's good to know it in advance, because today's audio is going to be about what are the key personality traits of people who are wildly successful in anything they put their minds to, because there are key personality traits. Now, let me give you a bit more background before we go into that as well, of how I know how incredibly these principles work. So everything we're going to be covering over the next 7 days, it is not an exhausted list, it is a part of the story, but it's going to give you really deep insights into yourself. This is the purpose of these audios. You are the one building, you're the one creating, you're the one imagining, and you're also the one navigating risk, failure, decision making, and being the leader of something. Because in business, you are going to be constantly stretched to learn to grow and evolve. In business, it's your capacity to be both the leader and the student, to be both the expert and the beginner all at the same time. Because business cannot consistently grow and thrive if we are stagnant. And so one of the things as entrepreneurs that we want to get really comfortable with is not knowing what we're doing and doing it anyway. So before we go into those traits, how do I know that this works? So the business I run now is the fourth business I've set up. And out of those four businesses, one was a complete failure. One was a complete disaster, made zero money and lost me literally all of my savings. And I still had a loan to pay off once the business had been shut down. And you might think, like, Rachel, why the F are you sharing that with us? Like, as a business coach and mentor, you're telling us that you failed. Yes. Because when I meet a business owner who has gone through severe failure to the point that they were almost bankrupt, and they had been shown by life so much evidence and proof of how hard business is, and yet they got back up again and built another business and built it to a level that no previous business had been at before, that is somebody who I know has got the grit, the resilience, and the courage to be able to do anything when it comes to business, success, and life. Because when I've still got more story to share with you, but if you know me well, you know I'll go on to a tangent of something really powerful to share, but we'll come back to the story I was going to share in a moment. One of the things that gets in a lot of people's way when it comes to business is how they approach failure and effort. Two personality traits of people who thrive. For those of you who know me, I worked in fitness for a really long time, and people's relationship with exercise is super interesting. And you've got two very clear categories of people: the ones who force themselves to do exercise to get a result, and the ones who choose to do it because that's what they want to become and whom they want to become. They want to become a fit, healthy person who's connected to their body and cares for it. And that group of people, what I learned from them, and I've translated into business, and I bring it into business coaching, and I teach my clients to curate it if they are not strong in this arena, is the following. What these people had that meant that they were successful, but they had the most incredible time on the path to the results, is that they loved effort. They loved not knowing how to do something and failing at it multiple times until they started to notice that they were just getting gradually better, and gradually better. They would be so excited by the small steps in progress. They would feel expanded by seeing something that previously was hard and suddenly it's easier than it ever was before. I never thought I could get this good at this. Now let's try something even harder. And I would have clients come to me who first they would struggle with holding a plank for 10 seconds. And then they'd come back in, they'd be like, now I want to do a crow pose, Rachel. So I'd teach them how to balance on their arms. Then they'd come in and they'd be like, can you teach me how to do a headstand? Can you teach me how to do a handstand? Because they were just in love with the process of learning and growing and evolving. They weren't worried about being a beginner and getting it wrong. They weren't worried about falling flat on their face. They wanted the adventure. They were in it for the journey. And this is one of the things, there will be arenas in your life that you're really strong in this. There'll be arenas in your business that you're strong in this. But the question is, what are the arenas in business and growth and income and leadership and your own identity and relationship with money where you are not applying these principles? You're resisting the enjoyment of not knowing what you're doing. You're resisting the challenge of meeting your edges. Because this is where the magic is. This is where you're not growing at the level you could be, because of the way that the perspective that you have on the things and the meaning that you attach to them. So I invite you to pause for a moment and contemplate the areas where you're struggling, the areas that feel heavy, or the areas where you're not yet getting the results that you want. And where are you not in beginnership? And where are you not connected to that excitable inner child that loves adventure, variety, and learning and growth? I'm going to take you back in time for a moment just to show you how powerful this work is and the profound difference it can make when you don't just apply this once or twice, but you understand that this is just like brushing your teeth. This type of work, the mindset, the frequency, the identity, and the spiritual practices, it's like brushing your teeth on a daily basis. Because we're born into a reality where we function on conditioning. The conditioning that comes through our generational line, the conditioning we learn through life experiences, and the conditioning we learn from the society that surrounds us and where we place our intention and attention. And so when it comes to building a business, you are coming to it not as a fresh slate, not with this really clear mind of what you're creating. What you're bringing to your business is all of the conditioning that you're carrying from your past. And so when we're wanting to have a great time, when we're wanting to break societal norms and create something that genuinely gives us freedom, not just externally, but also internally, a major part of the work is acknowledging your conditioning. Noticing, bringing, as Carl Jung says, the unconscious to conscious awareness, because otherwise it will, you'll just live by it and you'll call it fate. And so if you're not making the money you want to be making, if you don't have the clarity on what your niche is, if you don't know how to create a business model, and you're struggling with all of these things, the struggle, the anxiety, the overwhelm, the doubt, the fears, all of that is conditioning. It is not who or what you are, or the foundations on which you have to build anything at all. And so the type of work where we're going within, we're meeting our internal landscape, and you're listening to these sorts of trainings on a regular basis, the ones that help you to see things from a different perspective, it is just like brushing your teeth. You do it twice a day, every day, so that your teeth remain clean and your breath remains fresh. You're doing that cleanup. You're seeing, oh yeah, there's a pattern. There's something I hadn't looked at. Oh, there's a perspective I hadn't noticed that was causing me to contract and feel small. So when I set up the business that I now run, and to give you some context, we're now coming to the end of July. And it was going to be the lowest cash month that I had in 2 or more years. And I only realised coming near to the end of June, I thought, well, I'll turn that around because it'll be really good to go off on the summer holidays, having had some more money coming into the business so I can pay business costs and put money to one side for future savings. And so I didn't launch anything. I didn't really plan anything. I just decided to have a few conversations with different people. And what was the lowest cash month then turned into the highest cash month. So far this month, we've collected over 30,000 euros in cash. And for somebody like me to be saying something like that is a bigger deal than a lot of you will realise. Because for some of you, 30,000 euros, it sounds like a small number. For others of you, it's a wild idea because it's an amount that a lot of people are paid over a year of income. So it was only a few years ago that I was struggling to pay my rent, which was 550 euros a month. In fact, it was only a few years ago that I was on the phone to my landlord in tears because I couldn't hold them back. I was worried that I was going to get chucked out of my apartment because I was only just managing to cover electricity. I didn't even have money to buy food. And so I was in pieces on the phone, not knowing what my future held. And it was a really scary place to be. And that was my starting point. That was the starting point from which I built the business I'm currently running. And so when I say that this stuff works, I'm saying it from a place of knowing. But I'm also saying it from a place of understanding what is actually required for it to work. Because there are some of you here who you will listen to this, you will apply the teachings, and you will see profound change. And then there's others of you who will hear it and go, oh, that sounds nice, that's cute. Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, I had this aha moment, or I had an emotion. And then you'll go off and you'll continue life doing things the way you always have. I invite you to approach it like any form of awakening process. And again, let's come back to the words of Carl Jung. Awakening isn't about seeing light beings. It's about bringing the unconscious to conscious awareness. It's about acknowledging your conditioning and how it is running your life and you're calling it fate. Because the money that you make through a business is not fate, it's conditioning. The time freedom that you have in business is not fate, it's conditioning. And you will build everything and experience everything through the lens of your conditioning. And we have the power to consciously choose our conditioning. And this is where the profound change happens. I'm going to share one more story with you, and then I'll leave this with you for today. Because today I had a really clear memory come to my mind. So back in 2012, I went to a festival. I was 29 years old and I'd been on the path for 10 years. So I started on the path of self-inquiry and self-knowledge at the age of 19. So with 10 years in, I thought that I had encountered a lot of my conditioning. And when I arrived at this festival, within the first few days, I became profoundly aware of how much I'd been holding unconsciously. How much with my interactions with other women, I was defensive and assessing every single interaction. Is this woman safe or not safe? Can I be myself? Can I not? If I'm myself, will she judge me and reject me? So every single interaction, putting up a protective shield and actually looking at women through that shield to assess whether they were safe or not. Now, this is a common theme for a lot of women. We're bullied at a young age, and we learn through interactions that when we are a leader, when we shine our light, other people are triggered, and then they interact with us in a certain way, and we don't feel safe. And so many of us, rather than facing that discomfort and choosing to be ourselves anyway, we actually learn to be less and less ourselves and abandon ourselves in the process. So here I am coming to this festival and realizing how much I'd been abandoning myself. I hadn't been expressing my true colors. I'm a little bit of a weirdo. So I hadn't been letting my weird out. I'd been hiding my weird from the world. I'd been hiding my creativity from the world. And I'd actually been putting a lid on my capacity so as not to shine too much. And at this, it's that type of festival where everybody there has been on the path for a really long time. And all of the interactions with these women, it was interactions where women would admire one another, but not through the lens of comparison and jealousy, but through the lens of admiration and love. And it was a 7 to 9 day festival. And over that period of time, when you're in that sort of community, you're surrounded by those sorts of people, it's easy to come back to the normal world and go back into your shell. Once your unconscious conditioning comes to conscious awareness, there will be a period of time before new conditioning and a new way of being and doing things is really anchored into your system, not just conscious mind, but your automated responses to the outside world. And there will be a period of time where it's likely to be quite uncomfortable, where you're going to meet your edges, where you're going to be in interactions where before you interacted a certain way, and then suddenly you're showing up in a different way. And this is where most people contract back. Now, this can manifest in your interaction with selling something, in owning your value, in having conversations around money, which, by the way, in business, if you want to be successful, you're going to have to talk about money all of the time, like literally all of the time. You've got to get super comfortable with talking about money, feeling very neutral talking about it. If you currently have all sorts of stories and emotions around money, that is a huge thing that's getting in the way of your growth. But anywhere where you do not feel at ease, where you can't just like do the things and talk about the things from a very neutral, grounded place where you completely trust yourself, that is where your conditioning is getting in the way. And so when I came back from that festival, all of the women that I'd interacted with, society, lots of people who weren't doing the work, who would judge, who would compare, who would feel triggered when I let myself shine. The work was not to contract in those moments and go back to old patterns and programs. And it wasn't comfortable at first because my nervous system was programmed to believe that that was unsafe. And so the cells in my body would tell me, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, because your body will naturally protect you from what it perceives to be unsafe. And so as you're going through these audios, those of you who are in the school, or those of you who are joining, those of you who are doing this work as well, it is not about avoiding the feeling of lack of safety. Because on your path of growth, as you're bringing the conditioning to conscious awareness, you will encounter feelings of the carpet being pulled away from you, from under your feet. There will be moments when you're so accustomed to showing up in a certain way, and you know to get to another level, you've got to show up differently. But what stops a lot of people, and this is the last personality trait I'll share with you today, what stops a lot of people is not doing this. It's believing that that feeling is wrong and avoiding the feeling itself. People who are wildly successful, what's a trait, a character trait, is not avoiding the uncomfortable feelings. Not being afraid of being imperfect, of getting it wrong, of looking like a tit, of people talking badly of them, of people judging them, people saying nasty things to them online. Look at the people who are really wildly successful. How many negative comments, people judging them from the outside when they have no idea who they are, what they represent, what they stand for. They just see what's presented publicly and they judge, and they say all of the things they want to say. And most of those people who have something negative to say is because they are not in the arena. They don't know what it is to put themselves out there. They don't know what it is to be vulnerable and human whilst putting themselves out into the world. And so it's so easy for them to sit in the comfiness of their armchair and point a finger and judge and say, you're the bad one. And so one of the things of entrepreneurship, but spiritual growth in general, is we no longer, we cease to seek our safety external to ourselves. You become so anchored in who you are. You don't have to change so the outside world accepts you. It's not about everyone else accepting you. It's about you accepting you. Owning who you are, light and dark, and being really grounded within that. So I've got one last question to ask you for today. What is being in integrity to you? What does it mean to you to be in integrity with yourself? And where in your life are you not being in integrity with you? Because the most important and foundational relationship in your life is the one that you have with yourself.